The Umbra Initiative gearset in Tom Clancy's The Division 2 was greeted with a lot of excitement when it first came out, but fell in popularity almost immediately after. Today we're going to examine how it functions, how we should use it, how we should build it, and how it can improve to bring it back into use by the greater fan base in another interesting investigation. Hey agents, it's Dispatch. Welcome to the channel, where we talk about the math, builds, lore, and game design of Tom Clancy's The Division 2. Let's get stuck into it. Umbra is a bit of a confusing gear set. In order to make use of your offensive bonuses, you have to build up stacks in cover, but you can't use them in cover. You can only use them when you're out of cover. Same with the defensive bonuses. You can only build up stacks of your defensive bonus while you're out of cover, and you can only use it when you're in cover. The idea behind this set is that the player has to play in both states, in cover and out of cover, because you need to be in the opposite state in order to build up the bonuses for the state that you want. You have to play in cover for a certain amount of time before you can max out your offensive bonus, which will wear off, and you have to return to cover to build them back up again. It might seem obvious, but realize that this means that you'll never have the full bonus. You'll either have one or the other, not both. Since this is different than almost every other talent in the game, it's tempting to say that you have both 8% armor regen and 15% rate of fire and 50% critical hit damage, but that's not the case. So even though the bonuses on paper sound good, you're not getting them all the time, which sounds obvious, but you kinda assume reading it that you get one half the time and the other half, but it's not even that, because the bonuses get used up. If you do a cover to cover, you don't even build stacks. Oftentimes you dip into cover, not because you need the regen, but instead because you need the damage to build back up, so you're sitting there feeling like a stick in the mud. That's in addition to the fact that the bonuses decay over time, almost like the opposite of Striker, Heartbreaker, and Obliterate. These talents build up, so you can't necessarily always take them at max value. Umbra is the same in reverse. You find yourself without the bonuses, you are going to be in big trouble. Let's talk about the defensive ITL bonus first, since it's the most problematic. It repairs 8% of your armor per second on a 1 second tick that takes effect after the game recognizes you are in cover. The repair is done on a 1 second tick and not continuously. At base, this will only repair 40% of your armor over 5 seconds. This is not great, especially considering the good offensive bonuses that are available to you. While this is a higher repair than most talents, keep in mind that other armor regen happens continuously and all the time, not just while you're in cover. So it might seem like high repair on paper, but in game, it just kind of feels awful. 5 seconds feels like a long time, and the activation of it is so janky and has such a delay that for the first second you wonder whether it's working at all. If you get out of cover and then back in, it feels even longer. The biggest issue seems to be the game detecting that you're in cover and the fact that it only repairs 40%. So you're out of cover doing damage, which you want to be doing always, and you only want to go into cover when you really need some armor back. So you go into cover when your armor is depleted, wait 5 to 7 seconds, and blam! It repairs 40% of it. Yay! You might as well just pop an armor kit and get all your armor back since you're at a huge damage loss anyway. You'll want to be spending most of your time out of cover and utilizing the damage bonus as much as possible. Since you're going to spend so much time out of cover, running 1% armor regen or 10% armor on kill might actually serve us better than relying on the defensive talent. It isn't totally worthless, but it's just nice to have rather than something that you can actually take advantage of. The crux of the problem is that the in-cover talent feels terrible. You're losing all of your offensive firepower, so that feels bad. If you fire back while you're in cover, you risk taking damage, and your defensive buff will time out. If you don't fire back in cover, you're losing a huge amount of DPS. If you don't take the chest, you've just got a worse striker. Whatever that chest talent is will have better DPS while you're in cover, but you don't really want to be firing from cover anyway. With the chest piece, things feel pretty good. If you have to fire from cover though, things are going to feel terrible, because you're essentially running an all-red high-end build without any brand bonuses. So we can see that the Umbra chest actually outperforms Obliterate with the amount of crit that we have, assuming 60% critical hit chance. Based on your specific crit numbers, it's going to be very close between the two. The difference is that Obliterate requires stacking, and the Umbra chest has extra rate of fire, which is guaranteed to decrease your TTK unless you fire more than one mag. So the Umbra chest is better in both regards than Obliterate. If we use Glass Cannon, we're in the same position, just with no buildup required. Perfect Glass Cannon will give us even more. But with both Glass Cannon and Perfect Glass Cannon, we're going to be out of cover. So unless we can kill the enemies before they shoot back, we're going to have major issues fully utilizing our offensive buffs. Now this isn't taking into account Vigilance, which would put the Umbra chest in an even better position over Obliterate. So, if you're going for damage, I recommend the Umbra chest. As far as backpacks go, Vigilance is a good option. If you want to throw on some utility, that's a good option too. Since we got so much crit damage, I recommend against the Coyotes unless running in a group. Run Cheshka instead. Having the wrong mix of too little crit chance will be very detrimental when we're relying so much on crit damage. Instead, opt for Cheshka or whatever combination gets you closest to 60% critical hit chance with your chosen weapon. In my opinion, since we're running out of cover and upfront burst damage is so critical to the set, I personally run Vigilance on the backpack. Since we have to fully get out of cover, you're going to want to play around a piece of high cover, where you can be standing behind the cover but not be shot. Then you have to control that angle. This is a great application for a shield. It will give you much more duration on your damage phase. You're able to do a lot of burst damage without any buildup, unlike something like Striker or Heartbreaker, so take advantage of that. Speaking of these two gear sets, let's compare to Striker and Heartbreaker. With the 15% critical hit chance, to compensate you'd need 2 to 3 more critical hit chance rolls on your Striker pieces, but Striker has 2 weapon handling rolls. So these essentially cancel out, which means you'll have an extra 50% critical hit damage with Umbra in theory. Heartbreaker gives you 50% amplified damage. Striker gives you 65% amplified damage. Those have to build up, but they're active all the time, as opposed to turning off as soon as you go into cover. So it's pretty easy to see that this set gives us good upfront DPS increases, but as far as maximum potential goes, it falls a little behind. If you're running Legendary or in the open world where engagements can drag on for a long time, Strikers is going to be better because you can maintain high stacks without much trouble. Umbra will still serve you well, just not as well. Striker will have a big damage advantage. Alright, so let's finish off how to build with Umbra. A good choice is to go all crit and all red. Given the fact that we have to be out of cover most of the time, I wouldn't recommend a skill build. Some people can doubtless make it work, but you need to laser down those enemies with your burst damage. Walking around out of cover without a shield is going to be a bad time. You can try running clutch on your backpack and popping in and out of cover, be my guest, and let me know how it works for you. Going along with the shield, running a few repair skills miners, a skill tier or 2, Artificer and the shield, and that will give us a lot of repairs for when we're out of cover, protecting us and maintaining vigilance as well. This has become a really dull recommendation that I keep making, but hey, it's simply one of the most efficient ways to build. There's no way around that. Now let's talk weapons. You'd think this set would be good for LMGs. They're usually lacking in crit and benefit greatly from reload speed. However, getting out of cover to make use of the offensive bonuses leads to a handling deficit that is counterproductive. They also can't run shields, so you're out there with your ass in the wind. SMGs already have tons of crit, so there isn't much point in running one of those. The one possible exception is running backfire. As far as I know, the cover repair will still stop the bleeding from backfire. However, this is pretty niche and can still get you killed if you play improperly. The extra crit damage is good for setting world records, but not so much for actually being viable for this set. All SMGs also suffer from the same problem that shotguns have. We need a lot more sustain to get in close and make use of them, so they're not a good fit. Unfortunately, the recoil interrupt doesn't apply to MMRs, rifles, or pistols, so those are also out. ARs seem to be the best fit, and they benefit from the rate of fire recoil interrupt effect. Look in the video description to find out more about that tasty tidbit. I originally thought this would make an excellent pair with the AKs and TKBs since they've got high recoil and high bullet damage that would pair nicely with the recoil interrupt and a little bit of rate of fire. However, the recoil interrupt doesn't seem to function on these two weapons, so that's a big downer. If you are comfortable with these weapons and can handle them, they're still good options, because the higher bullet damage means you're going to have a lower hits to kill compared to other weapons, so it's harder to get to that next lower hit to kill. But rate of fire will reduce your TTK regardless. If you want the extra handling benefit, choose a higher rate of fire weapon instead and you'll still be good to go. Now let's move on to the problems that I have with this set. Simply put, to me, it doesn't feel good. Having to go into cover just to sit there and rebuild stacks and thumb my butthole doesn't feel good. The set doesn't give you anything to do while you're in this state. You have to play a certain way and around certain cover or it just isn't going to work. Since the in cover and out of cover states are mutually exclusive, one is going to be inevitably better and the one that you are going to go for on the build, unless there are specific times that you would do one over the other. For example, if being in cover made you immune to explosions, you would only go in cover to make use of that mechanic. Still, being in one of these states, the player needs something to do. In my mind, the in cover state should be benefiting the team or benefiting another part of your build. For example, what if being in cover guaranteed lots of skill repair and skill damage? You could run this like a DPS healer build. When your team needs healing, you duck into cover and pull out your chem. When you're ready to do damage, you step out of cover and start blasting away. If you're running a skill damage build, maybe you could get really creative and duck into cover right before your seekers hit, giving you the damage boost without sacrificing much weapon DPS. There are a lot of other iterations. You can mold it into a set based strictly out of cover or in cover. You could have the stacks build up differently or remove the stacks and just have the bonuses apply directly when you're in the right state. It would also be nice if it didn't cater to ARs, which are already by far the most used weapon type by a country mile. Something to benefit LMGs might be nice. I won't get into that today any more than I have, so let me know if you'd like a video exploring those options. This video has already gone on long enough, so let me recap what we've learned today. Umbra is a decent set based on upfront damage and a cover stacking mechanic that is a bit janky. The chest beast is basically best in slot, and I prioritize damage on the backpack, whatever other skill you want. Use an AR, stay at mid-range, only get into cover when necessary to build stacks, and play around a piece of high cover. Okay agents, that was a bloodbath. We talked about how Umbra works, the best way to build and play with it, and just one way that it could change to make it better. But the true reward was the math we found along the way. Do you agree with my recommendations? I don't play with this set often, so this is probably my least confident recommendation that I've ever made. Tell us in the comments how you'd like to run Umbra or how you'd like it to change. If you put your idea down, I can feature your comment in a follow-up video theory crafting various changes to the set. Of course, give us a little boost to the algorithm by hitting the like and subscribe buttons below, and until next time agents, this has been Dispatch. Take care out there. You might as well pop an armor kit and just get all your